letting off steam. It works. It works for me. I mean, it might not be what's ideally wanted for the broadcast, but that's secondary. It is all a part. Me putting things in their place, me nullifying things, me establishing a more realistic role in relation to my environment and the people who inhabit it, and so on and so forth. For example, more realistic relationships than those off the back of the ad agency, going way back to the architects and all that. It's important, like I say, it's all getting towards a reappraisal of stuff. That does take time. Not to the pace of the media, not to the pace of politics, not to the pace of a medicine, as it calls itself, that may be, as far as I can tell, working in some respects to those tempos of those different pressures, maybe. For me, get things off your chest, let off some steam, and make progress. And in one day, 10 days after being in hospital, in one day to feel so much homeliness as I'm feeling, there will be things going on with the ad agency, putting people up to do various things. If it weren't such a big show, a big palaver, I may take more notice. Like with, and I like all of them who worked down the coffee shop, like I liked pretty much everyone, if not everyone, who worked on the ward. The one chick down the coffee shop today, mentioned something, as I mentioned in the last video, I think it was, about, you're going too quick for me. Even though I don't know whether I picked up on an emotional state that didn't really add up. It's got pretty much nothing to do with me. I did. It seems reasonable enough. You're going a bit quick. Slow down a bit. But yeah, all sort of getting towards a more realistic and something with legs to it, long-term resolution to just like living your life and just getting on with things, despite all what goes on. It does take time, and I think the way the officials at the local psychiatric unit dived in, tried to dive in, was sort of indicative of it's not ideal, and it's not the way to do things when that pace wouldn't have worked. To cause more complications, despite the fact, and this is the predicament they're in, they seem to be in, me doing just about anything would sort of, possibly make them think that they had to go do things according to a pace that to me owes more to the news media and the political cycles than anything else. That's not the way to do things. I would understand if I was a danger to other people, if I was a danger to myself, if it was in my best interests to rush things. It's not, is it? And I think the homeliness I felt yesterday, that has extended even more today, despite occasional druggings, does speak a lot for the way I'm doing things. And it may seem that, this, it can be characterised in whatever way some people may want, it's working. And to me, that's a surefire sign that I've sort of found a way forward, sort of thing. But again, it seems that the ad agency is, for example, when I engaged in sexual activity earlier, again, when I pointed out, when I was sort of hinted that they'd pull this type of stunt again, they sort of, I'm engaging in sexual activity, right? And they're sort of suggesting things to me, the ways that they can, to detract me from that, to start thinking of crazy stuff, to try to get me thinking of crazy stuff. And it's like I mentioned in a video of where one of the shrinks down on the ward had gone on in a really dumb way, and I and then we had a break, and then we had a chat again, and things had changed, and she'd changed. I didn't see that. So much had changed, and I didn't adapt to that. The other psychiatrist at the unit sort of made the mistake I made. If anything, I'm adaptable. That's a pretty good thing. But the time I'd strongly suggest for trying to give me crazy thoughts around sexual activity should kind of be over. Should have been over a long time ago. But that's the way it is. They seem to be consumed at times with the amalgam. Like the relationship I've got, for example, with the chicks down the coffee shop, needs to be more realistic. To even say this is crazy, a coffee shop is a commercial place where people pay money in a financial transaction to get a product, and I'm talking about relationships with these people. But that's the way it is. That's part of it, isn't it? You could adopt a purely economic interpretation of it. But it's a social one as well. It's an interpersonal one. If you're a regular at some of these places, and especially in relation to what goes on around here, and and I have to take stock of the fact that I'm a public figure. Everything that goes on, they could argue, is around care. Well, I'd suggest strongly, hang on a sec, if this lot were running around trying to rush things last week, that would have been detrimental to my welfare and doing things. I would never have reached this level of homeliness that I achieved yesterday and that I'm achieving today. Even though there will probably be druggings off the back of it later on. The stuff, the way I am, for want of a better phrase, asserting myself and negotiating a relationship with my environment and the people who inhabit it. Not that I'm ever going to bloody spend time with the people down there, for example, or any of the people around here. It's not really my style. But going about my business the way I can and often do. That harks back to a past era, before 96, and in many ways before 2000. But that's you can't rush it according to news cycles and political demands. These things take time. Considering, like, for example, doing things. I've said, when are you going to do that? And they do it. Like knock, door, run, and then Loris, it must be noticed. But like I said, talking about, for example, the people on the ward, the workers on the ward. They seem to be a bit trigger happy. I don't know. They seem to be a bit trigger happy about me criticising the system, making a critique of the system, and the machinery that goes on all around it, the ad agency, as I call it. Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. I may be reading into that. Thinking about. I looked at something that brought me joy in 5 ambulances, and that's, things need to be toned down. I can deal with them if they're not, but I don't think many other people can. Apart from the big show that's put on. For example, when I walked through the town and popped to the supermarket, which is like I say, if it wasn't all such a big show and a big advert, if it weren't so manufactured and if it wasn't so irrelevant, then I may take more notice of more of it. But like I said, to focus on the more positive stuff, the girl down the coffee shop, who she's all right, and she said, "You're going a bit fast for me," so I thought, all right, take the pace down a bit. Even though I picked it up again when I walked right through the car park, because we know these things are going on. It's a complete fallacy that it's a solution to go around saying, "Oh, it's not really happening. Oh, I'm deluded." All that type of thing. What? You're having a laugh. Divorcing myself from the pace of news cycles and politics and the type of thing that seems to influence so many, the type of tempo that seems to influence so many people, and storylines that seem to influence so many people that are, to me, are completely irrelevant, so many of them, but they're consumed by them. And it's sort of a repetition of what happened between 1996 and 2000, especially in the lead up to 2000. That, fuck what you say, the majority of the people who talk about you say this, so that must be true. I don't know what the term is in philosophy for that. I didn't know at one stage what the term in philosophy was for that. But yeah, I mean, now I'm more and more, and it does help to actually clarify how I'm thinking. More and more I'm looking at things in my environment, and it just isn't having the effect that it used to. And that's progress. 10 days after being on a ward where they went hook, line and sinker for drama. And I did point out while I was there to one of the shrinks, when one of the performers, one of the troupe, was performing her act. I said, well, this is what it's going to be like in Kitty. What do you know? We get those type of stunts even while I'm having a coffee, sitting outside a coffee shop. That's the way it is. To me, even though they try not to portray it, I think people are a little bit, to say the least, carried away with depictions of this, that, and everything. I'm not really interested. I mean, when I went downtown yesterday, there was a lorry, a van. With Fallen Angel written on it, right? These are things they cooked up for years. You had the pop star David Bowie jumping in and out of baths. There was no tomorrow. Even though that was a sack of shit. That's the type of thing that people have been putting in, consuming for so long. Is it any wonder that they run around now for a big, it's a completely suitable metaphor to call it, a commercial break. And I'm just not interested in hooking up with anyone who is part of the who is influenced by the architects, part of some big ad agency, part of loads of bullshit stories that are just fucking irrelevant and boring. So much of yesterday and today, of this homeliness, of despite the druggings, of just having this sense, this embodied sense of, yes, finally I'm getting there, and looking further ahead as well to things like a more realistic appraisal of things than I sometimes give off. Not least because, like I say, I have to let off steam now and again. Like everything I see, all the stunts, all the adverts, I've seen countless times before, sort of thing. And that's part of the thing that's a bit irritating. It's a bit that's a drag when you when you go to pick up some, what was it? What was I going to get? Bacon and salmon. Bacon and salmon down Tesco's. I had to go through a swathe of adverts just to get the supermarket, but that's the way it is. And another thing, my distancing from the media has worked so far. I did my thing with the media, and as far as I'm concerned, that was that. It worked really well in the end for me. And that was that. But what do you know? The ad agency started like for example, that idea of them rushing into things, and it's just like, you don't do that. That's not the way to do things. I mean, they may take offence to me saying, well, how dare he? And they may think, how dare he say this to us, and all that sort of thing. But I sort of know this situation better than you lot. Quite a lot, in fact. I pretty much can guess what to do, despite what stunts may be pulled. Like I say, I'm really adaptable. I can adapt to that stuff if push comes to shove. For example, it was just like, to see a van with Fallen Angel and just think, well, those were the mad days. Those were really the crazy days. And to compare me to to the amalgam, which is done and dusted as far as I'm concerned. To place me in juxtaposition with that, are you fucking dumb? Are you fucking stupid? Are you fucking consumed with the adverts? Anyway, to do that, and it's just like totally unrealistic. Like I say, people jumping in and out of baths donkeys years ago, to the point where they were doing it on the bloody ward as well. And it's just like, you just think, well, hang on a second, I'm getting on with things. And I'm getting people jumping in and out of baths because some pop star did it donkeys years ago, and so on. Anyway, and other people being put up to saying you're killing them. Me thinking, well, who is it this time? And how? And the rest of it. But yeah, anyway, I think I've established that's a load of bollocks. But the ads today, come on. It would be nice to sit outside a coffee shop and just chill. That's what I'm there for, and I pretty much did that today. That's why I carried on doing the video while adverts were going on around me. Some big show, some big advert that's relevant, I'm not interested in. That sort of tries to regenerate the propaganda, the adverts of the amalgam years, as I characterise them. And that was a sack of shit. That's the argument I've been making for so long. But people seem consumed with all that because there were so many, not least because there were so many media effects around it, and so much of a kerfuffle around it all. But that is done and dusted. Like I said about the psychiatrist, about the shrinks, I didn't adapt that once to the one psychiatrist who moved. Times had changed. The one psychiatrist didn't adapt to the situation as it had changed as well. These mistakes can happen, these errors. Carrying on taking meds. Got no issue with that. I mean, it's a bit of a drag that the local pharmacy is being put up to piss about with that. I think, from what I can gather, that's just the way it is, and I'll adapt to all that. I've got no issue with doing that. But when I'm going about my day, it does help for people to remember the list that I put out. When I say things like lorries that must be noticed, knocked or run, manufactured depictions of life, some big fuck off advert for just about anything you can imagine, that it does make sense. For example, and that's yet another classic example. When I smile at something that brings me joy, there's 5 ambulances. That's the pace they're working to. It's not the pace I'm working to. And I'd argue my approach is far more successful and will be far more successful, whatever they do, in the long term. Which could be going through the druggings I went through after the new year. If that happens, I can do it. And I know I can do that. And now I'm pretty sure I can do it on meds or off meds. I did that once, I can do it again. And that was some damn achievement, pulling that off. And that helped as well. That sort of coming out of that sort of thing. Like I say, with all these dealing with my environment in the way I am, may not be a sugar-coated media phenomenon. It's actually practically excellent, I'd say. Even though that can sound pretty deluded if you're of that mindset, it's a pretty damn effective approach. Working for me. I will get drug-ins, I'm sure, to make me doubt that, and so on and so forth. There's so many drug-ins that are thrown around. It wouldn't surprise me. But anyway, like I said, the point I'm trying to make here, in a pretty rambling way, is that the way I'm saying this is how I'm dealing with my environment. That to not deal with this environment taps in to in my opinion, to the amalgam years, to bullshit notions, to bullshit depictions of how it is to live, and so on and so forth, to how to approach situations like this, despite all the kerfuffle that goes on, despite all the adverts and so on and so forth. This, if it, after only 10 days, I'm feeling like I am, and I've progressed as much as I am. And the alternative of what would have been, because they didn't anticipate a time like now, they may, even from me saying it, not be able to accept it. But to me, that's the way it's gone. That's the way it's going. To feel this amount of homelessness after so soon. The way I'm going about it, it's up to other people how they depict that. What I'm doing is fashioning, like I keep saying, a realistic way of life and approach to all manner of things. In these videos, maybe, probably, I'll start at some stage. I think there's still a way to go for this. Coming across with a more realistic, a more workable, a more practical appraisal of how things are, and how things Could be.